What is the best, the worst, and the most likely case scenario for the Oklahoma City Thunder during the 2022-23 NBA season? Plus, tonight's game against the Minnesota Timberwolves is going to tip off that regular season. What should you watch for in this game? All of that and more coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, brought to you by PrizePicks, we're diving into the best, the worst, and the most likely case scenario for the Oklahoma City Thunder. What should you look forward to tonight against Minnesota? And more. Let's start with our good friends over at PrizePicks because they're giving you an instant deposit match of up to $100 whenever you use the code Locked On. It's the best way to play daily fantasy sports. And also, thank you so much for making Locked On Thunder your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. The best case scenario. This is a bit tricky. It depends what side you fall on. Do you fall on the side of tanking or winning? If you're somebody who is just gung-ho on the Thunder trying to win this year and trying to compete in every single game and trying to collect as many wins as possible, then your best case scenario is different than somebody who wants the Thunder to tank just one more year with a Chet injury, trying to get Victor Wembanyama, trying to get Scoot Henderson, a top pick in this year's draft. Let's start with winning. If your best case scenario is you want the Thunder to win, what is the best that the Thunder can do? If the Thunder themselves truly tried to win every single game from the game 1 to 82, did not pull any levers, did not suffer any injuries, they were fully healthy, and this roster, sans Chet Holmgren, played every single game of this season. What is the best they could do? What is the highest peak they could achieve? To me, the best case scenario is the 9th seed. Now, it might be a competitive 9th. Maybe you're only 3 games out of the 8th spot, but it's the 9th seed. It would be every player in this roster getting extremely good and then taking an extreme leap from what they were the year before. It would take Ousmane Dieng and Jalen Williams contributing at a high level as rookies. It would take SGA being a 28 per game scorer. It would be Josh Giddey shooting 30+% from 3 and continuing his improvement at the rim, at the mid-range, with his passing, with his defense. It would take Trey Mann being an efficient scorer. It would take you playing Kenny Hustle and even Mike Muscala a little bit more. It would take Lou Dort's shooting efficiency going up. It would take the best version of every player on this roster. It would also take some luck, right? Teams get off to slow starts and decide, hey, we're going to pack it in. It would take, teams suffering some bumps and bruises and kind of packing it in. But if this team played at their best with the amount of teams that want to lose this year, maybe they could get to the 9th seed. It's the best case scenario. And again, that's if every single break fell the Thunder's way. The best case scenario for the tanking side of things, I think, would be the 4th or the 5th worst record in the NBA. Because even as hard as they tried these last 2 years, they couldn't secure a bottom 3 standings in the NBA. And now there's more NBA teams unabashedly tanking and trying their best to lose games than ever before that you're going to collect some wins from, that you're going to win more games than. So I'm not sure that they can get to that bottom 3. And the reason that bottom 3 is so significant, 1, 2, and 3 all have the same odds of 14% chance at getting Victor Wembanyama at the number 1 overall pick, which is the prize of this draft, which is the best prospect we've seen since LeBron, which is just this incredible talent for at least 9 years in your franchise. So those are the two best case scenarios, depending on the side of the street that you fall on, winning or losing. And I think that each of them have their selling points, right? If you do have a competitive 9th seed where, this team's good, they're only 3 games out of the 8th seed, but this is not your average 8th seed. This is the Pelicans with all their talent. This is the Mavericks with Luka. This is a Memphis team that might stumble, a Timberwolves team that looks up and coming. Whoever ends up being the 8th seed is going to be a very good team in the West because somebody has to be 8th because there's so many good teams in the West. So it's no shame to be 9 and be only a couple games out from a really good 8th seed team. For that, you could celebrate, look, these young guys are so much better than we thought that they were, and they're getting Chet Holmgren next summer. Plus whoever they draft in the 2023 NBA draft. They're getting Chet Holmgren back next season. He's their Victor Wembanyama. Plus you get a mid-round pick, a low lottery pick, because you're likely to lose the play-in tournament because of how good that the field is. So that, to me, is kind of where the kind of Thunder fall in all of this, as if they tried to win as best they could. I don't think that that'll happen because it never happens. You never reach your 100% ceiling. You never complete an 82-game stretch fully healthy. Somebody's going to regress. Somebody's going to take a leap, but 2 or 3 are going to regress or not play as well or have a bad stretch that just dooms you after a strong start. Or, looking at this schedule, the first 11 games, try as you might finish 1-10. You might be favored 1 time in the first 11 games. You're not favored tonight. 11.5-point underdogs, according to our friends over at BetOnline. You're not favored tonight, so I'm not sure who you're going to be favored against in these next 11 games. So if you're 1-11, it puts a damper on your best case scenario. In terms of that has a clear selling point because we'd all be excited to see playoff basketball in the Paycom Center. In terms of the tanking, even though it'd take a lot of losses to get to 4 or 5, or especially 4, you sell yourself on, hey, they lost because they were young, they couldn't close out games, you still saw improvement from Josh Giddey, Poku, all these guys, and you get Chet Holmgren back, and you get a really, really good NBA draft pick. Because it's not just about Victor and Scoot. Those are the 2 prizes, but Cam Whitmore, the Thompson twins, Whitehead, Mitchell, Smith, these are all guys that are going to be incredible talents. They're going to be all-star level players. And if you add an all-star level player to Shea and Giddey and Chet, you're in business in Oklahoma City. You're riding high in Oklahoma City if you can do that. So that's where I fall on the best and the worst case scenario. Of course, that is up to your discretion. Do you fall in the camp of trying to win, or do you fall in the camp of trying to lose, trying to be bad, trying to get draft picks, trying to figure out a way to get Victor Wembanyama? Where do you fall in all of this? What I think is the easiest one to describe, what I think is one that we can all agree upon, is the worst case scenario. I think that we can all have the same exact worst case scenario, whether you are a firm believer in tanking or a firm believer in trying to win every single game. We can all join hands and sing Kumbaya around the campfire about this worst case scenario coming up. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is incredible. It is a 100% deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON at PrizePick.com or the PrizePick app. What is PrizePicks? It is a daily fantasy sports made easy and simple. It's, to me, the best way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you versus the projected number. So you're not getting into a pool with all these sharks and fantasy gurus that know that the value play here is this guy's going to go for 20 points tonight. All you got to do is sit back, get your phone out, get your laptop out, go to PrizePicks, and let the projected numbers do the work. So, for example, I love SGA coming back to this squad, this roster, this lineup. I love it. I want to see him play with this team. Let's say, hypothetically, his points per game is 20.5. That's the projection. On PrizePicks, I can go there, and if that's the line, that they set, I will just hit the over, and I'll sit back and watch. And if Shea scores 21 or more points, I win. I win the bet. I win the money. I get to claim 1-0 on the season. If he scores 19 or less, I lose. But it's all up to the projected numbers and what the player actually does. So it's very simple. It's very easy. It's a nice way to get into it. Daily fantasy sports made easy and fun over at PrizePicks.com or the PrizePicks app. Check it out today. We are back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're still talking about the best, worst, and most likely case scenario. We talked about the best case scenario. Let's talk worst case scenario. The worst case scenario for the Thunder is finishing 9th. I should say, really, finishing 10th. 9th or 10th in the play-in where you're not competitive, right? Let's better frame this as 10th. So the Thunder get the 10th seed in the play-in. They technically get to play in the play-in tournament. They might even beat the 9th seed, but they're not going to beat the Pelicans or the Mavericks or whoever finishes, and wins that 7-8 game. They're not going to beat them. And by not competitive, what I mean is, let's say you get the 10th seed, but let's say it's not because these guys just had these incredible leaps and these incredible games and incredible storylines. Let's say it's because the Lakers suck. Let's say it's because the Kings did a Kings thing. Let's say it's because Portland gets off to a bad start and packs it in. Let's say it's because there's injuries around the league. Whatever it is, it's the 10th seed and you're 7 or 8 games out of the 8th seed, not even close to the legitimate playoff teams in this conference. So would you rather have that outcome where sure you get to play 84 games instead of 82, or would you rather be looking at that outcome down the barrel and then go 0-10 in the last 10 games and improve your lottery odds? Because even if you can just climb from being the 10th seed in the West to being the 7th worst team overall in the NBA, then at that point, you get a 32% chance at a top 4 pick versus just simply playing 2 more games for the sake of playing 2 more games. So to me, that's the worst case scenario. Finishing 10th and a non-competitive 10th. You get there because other teams don't want it. Houston is out. Utah is out. San Antonio's out. The Kings suck. The Lakers suck. Portland, has issues with whatever the case is, a slow start, injuries, whatever it may end up being in this hypothetical world. And you back into the 10th seed. Backing into the 10th seed is the worst case scenario for OKC. Now, let's face it here on the front end and admit our biases. We're going to talk ourselves into any outcome this year. This is a house money year for the Thunder. It's one of the last house money years for the Thunder that they're going to have in quite some time, where we can make anything into a good thing. Because just as these teams will say, oh, our biggest free agent signing is Tim Hardaway Jr. because he didn't play last year, like Dallas is saying right now. Or if a guy gets hurt in the first half of the year, our biggest trade deadline acquisition is X player that's healthy now. Right? Just as teams will say that, the Thunder will say, well, Thunder fans will say, well, sure, they were a mediocre, good enough 10th seed, but they're adding Chet Holmgren. And they're still going to have a first-round pick in this year's draft. Which is true and is still worth being excited about and celebrating. So there's no real outcome in which you won't be excited about the outcome of this season. But if you had to pick a worst-case scenario, that would be it for the Oklahoma City Thunder. That would be kind of what defines a bad season. What is the most likely case scenario for Oklahoma City? To me, the most likely outcome is the 7th worst record in the league. What that means is you still lose a lot of games. You still have a shot at the big fish. You got a ton of development from Pokusevski, a ton of development from Giddey, from Mann, from Jalen Williams, from Ousmane Dieng, with him getting minutes in a non-competitive win-loss-wise season. SGA's an all-star. Isaiah Joe's a fun little player to watch at the end of the year whenever they are just packing it in. Lou Dort takes a leap in efficiency. Aaron Wiggins shows he's a rotational piece. Just all these different things happen. But since you're so young, and since young teams don't win games, and since you're the youngest team in the NBA and you can't close out close games, you lose. But you have Chet Holmgren coming back, and you have a 32% chance at a top 4 pick, and you have a 7.5% chance at pairing Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama together. To me, that is the most likely case scenario and also a very good case scenario for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So drop below in the YouTube comment section what you think is the most likely, is the best, and is the worst case scenario for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Where do you fall in all of this for OKC? I also want to discuss the Minnesota Timberwolves in this game tonight, but also what we're watching for all season long for this Thunder team. What rotation will Mark trot out there in this game? It's his first time this year having a fully healthy roster. The only player on the injury report is Chet Holmgren. Everyone else is ready to go. But you can't play all 16 guys. Like, even though they're healthy, you can't play 16 guys meaningful minutes or bulk minutes in an NBA game. It's just impossible. So who's going to be left out? Who's going to not play a huge role in this game? Who will get the first shot at the starting, duties? Is Pokusevski going to be a starter? Will Pokusevski still look composed and calm and like a connector as he has all preseason? Can OKC still play fast whenever SGA returns? And how does SGA and Josh Giddey play off of each other? Because that's a pairing we did not get to see a lot of last year that we'd all want to see more of this year. That's a pairing that will get scrutinized and under a microscope all season long, and the Thunder have to figure out how to make that work and how it's going to look moving forward. Darius Bazley's shot attempts. He didn't take any threes the last 2 preseason games. He was more effective when driving and rolling and sitting in the dunker spot. Can he keep that up? Can he be a rim roller? Can he be a cutter? Can he be a guy that's just waiting in the dunker spot for a dump-off pass on the offensive end, making him a very efficient offensive player with his elite defensive versatility and defensive end production? Is Jalen Williams from Santa Clara legit? He's passed the summer league test. He passed in the training camp test. He passed in the preseason test with flying colors. Can he pass the test of NBA opening night? Ousmane Dieng minutes. Look, if you tell me at 11 p.m. tonight, Ousmane Dieng played 25 minutes in this game, I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't be floored if that happened. If you told me he played 4 minutes in this game or less, I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't be floored. I wouldn't have my jaw on the floor if that happens. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of what the Thunder will do for him. Me personally, I think and I hope that he plays 15 to 20 minutes in this game, but I can't guarantee anything. Tre Mann's efficiency as a scorer, what will that look like in that sixth man role now? SGA's back. He's kind of relegated back to that bench role as a bench scorer. What does that kind of take on for him in this game? Can the Thunder finish inside against Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns in this Minnesota Timberwolves team? Is the three-point shooting in the preseason legit, or are they going to struggle tonight? I think that they can generate open looks tonight, but are they going to struggle from three? Is it just a case of they stacked up a ton of made threes against the 2 non-NBA teams, but once you get into NBA basketball, once it's for real, once the stakes are there, they kind of revert back to shooting below 33% from three or something. Because against the Mavericks second teamers, they shot 18%. So what do they look like from beyond the arc this game? Along with playing fast, I'm monitoring the fast break points because I think that, if you look back to last year, typically when they won the fast break points, they won the game. And then my biggest thing I'm going to keep track of, and really all season long, is the rebound success. This is a big team with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns. This is a big team. They had a lot of success on the glass despite being undersized in the preseason. The Thunder did. Went 4-2 in the preseason, I believe, on the board. And they went 5-1 as a team win-loss wise. Can that translate into the NBA? Again, whenever things matter and things kind of pick up and things increase. So let me know what you're watching for in this game in this season. Let me know what you think the best, the worst, and the most likely case scenario is for the Oklahoma City Thunder this year. And here's what's ahead. Tomorrow, we're going to recap the game against Minnesota. Friday, we're going to talk about what every single player needs to improve upon this weekend and for the rest of the season. Saturday, we're going to have a recap of the Denver Nuggets game. Monday, we're going to have a recap of the home opener against the T-Wolves, playing the T-Wolves twice in 3 nights, the Thunder are. So this is Lockdown Thunder. It's a daily podcast Monday through Friday and after every single game. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube or anywhere else you get podcasts from for free, and make sure you never miss an episode. Now, I do want to tell you, for your second listen, go check out the Game to Game podcast. The Game to Game podcast, it's so cool. So everyone on the network, Locked On Cavs host, Locked On Mavericks host, myself, every Locked On host for the NBA is going to record a minute reaction to every single game. It'll be posted on the Locked On NBA YouTube page and on the Game to Game podcast feed for the NBA. And you can get, in 30 minutes, a breakdown of every single game that happened the night before in the association with a local angle on what the local fans and media are talking about from these games, to where you can be the most informed national fan out there and kind of have bits and pieces of what they are talking about in these cities. And then if something draws your attention, go check out that team's podcast. If Evan Mobley has an incredible game tonight, check out Locked On Cavs after his little 1 minute tidbit on what happened, what the biggest storyline is. So it's awesome for you. It's a great way to keep up because, look, you're going to be watching the Thunder tonight, but there's still a ton of other games on that you're going to want to see. I got 6 screens in my office right here. I'll try my best to keep up with everything, but we're all going to be hyper-focused on the Thunder. So Game to Game will be a great tool to get you caught up on all the action across the NBA. Check out Locked NBA as well for the national perspective and a more long-form podcast talking about the league at large.